So good morning, back to it. I missed yesterday. I have to try and kind of balance things with my podcast and editing as well as doing the live shows as well. So I'm really happy to be back to it this morning. It's absolutely pouring down with rain, so hence I've got bright red lipstick on this morning to try and cheer myself up a bit and add some colour to the day. And today's guest is somebody that I am really interested and intrigued to find out more about. Isan Lewis is an astrologer and an expert in the art of timing. And if you're like me and you always go to the back page to read the horoscopes, one of the first things I do, but I don't know enough about it, I am really excited to find out more. So let's introduce Isan to us this morning. Good morning, Isan.
Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, everyone.
It's lovely to connect with you on here, and it is a subject that I know very little about, so it's really intriguing. To anybody that doesn't know anything about you, how do you first describe yourself to somebody?
Oh, my goodness. How do I describe myself? Well, I say, in general sense, that I'm a very ordinary person who's had an extraordinary life.
I love that. That's a great, that I want to know more now.
So true, a normal sort of upbringing. But I have done extraordinary things and had them come to me as well. So whether I've drawn them, whether they've come my way naturally, and I've got great curiosity. And I really would encourage anybody to really either up the ramp on curiosity or, just bring it to a center stage, really,
Yeah.
because it keeps you young.
Yes, so many people I've talked to later in life that have found new passions. It's come from that desire to be more curious about life.
Yes, it really keeps you youthful, and it stops not just boredom stepping in, but habits. And we do need habits, but we need to create new ones from time to time.
So how did you get into astrology? It's a subject that, I didn't know anything about, certainly didn't get taught at school. How did you find your love for it?
Well, it's a big journey, many cul-de-sacs, different routes. We go out on a journey anyway. We know our way somewhere, but you never know what X factors come up along that journey. And sometimes it takes us to some very interesting places. I was fortunate to come into a family who were very open and interested in these subjects, not necessarily astrology, but was there anything, beyond death? They were interested in metaphysics, philosophy, and certainly when I got older into my teens, I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to go to Oxford and read psychic studies? Well, there wasn't such a thing as you've just said. They don't teach that kind of material. But I was always an explorer. And yes, Rachel, I wanted to be an explorer physically. Until I was in my 30s, I was only ever about 7.5 stone. I ate like a horse, but I was thin. And I don't think I was physically strong enough to do the mountain climbing, the real exploring that I wanted. At the same time, I was very interested in what I call the upside down carpet of the heavens, the stars. I don't know about you, but I'd go out the door in the evening and immediately look up if there were stars.
Yeah.
Without falling over, hopefully. Always fascinated by that. So, as above, so below, which is one of the old axioms of philosophy, that which is above is like that which is below. It's a mirror. And I was interested in many things. I also was very interested in the dramatic arts. I was a singer, I was a jazz singer for a while in my 50s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love jazz. And I love all types of music. I trained as an actress with LAMDA. And so there are many things I wanted to do. And the main thing was exploring and also perhaps having a purpose. Now, that word is used quite a lot now, or like leaving a legacy. But I always wanted a purpose. If you like, my soul cried out for higher ground when I was doing what I call ordinary jobs, which are very useful and important. But it wasn't that I felt I was special, but I certainly felt that I wanted to contribute in a bigger way. And I wasn't that clever at any particular thing. I'd love to be a genius. By not being a genius, we can do more things. Because otherwise we specialize, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, true. It's a good way of thinking about it.
And I went into many kinds of jobs alongside some drama, and I did a lot of voluntary work. And then in my 20s, I got very interested more in metaphysics, the meaning of life, psychology, and I know because I'm a Scorpio, my birth sign, and somebody said to me once, "Do you know what your moon sign is?" And I thought, "Oh, can I look it up?" Not that easy. Now you've got to remember, Rachel, back then, now it was 1979 when I took this up as a profession, and certainly learned beforehand.
Mm.
There were no computers to do the calculations.
Of
So
course.
the person said to me, "Well, you're going to have to do all the logarithms and maths to find out where your moon sign is because it changes every 2.5 days."
Oh, right.
Change sign, during the day at a particular point.
Mm.
So I thought, oh my goodness. And this very shy girl who was a dunce at maths at school thought, right, where there's a will, there's a way. And I really knuckled down. Just goes to show when you've got a passion, you will learn
Yeah,
something.
that's impressive. Yeah.
And for 15 years, I did all the charts based on people's, what I call the sat-nav coordinates, the full date of birth, the time of birth, the place of birth, longitude and latitude, by hand. And
Gosh.
computers came in, and it made life a lot easier. You could do more quickly the calculations, but the interpretation was and is mine.
Mm.
So that's, to cut a long story short,
Yeah.
maybe not so short, this is how I got into this beautiful, beautiful subject. And very quickly, I think it chose me, because in 1979, there were a lot of jobs around. It was a good time for the self-employed as well.
Yeah.
But I thought I could always do something else. Let's give it a go.
And it's quite, I can imagine it was probably, am I right in thinking it was a male orientated kind of domain when you first stepped into it, or was it an equal mix?
In terms of clients or interest?
Interest and
I'd like to say it's equal.
mm,
We tend to think women are far more interested in this subject. And I'd say over 41 years of doing my work, I don't know the exact proportion or percentage, but more are women.
mm,
Having said that, I have done a great many charts for men,
yeah.
particularly business charts for investments, and for children. Of course, that's boys and girls. So,
It's
you know,
so interesting. And I know you specialize in what you call the art of timing, which I would love to know more about, because I'm assuming that kind of, once you spend time with a client and work out art of timing, then it can be a massive benefit to them moving forward in life as to when they plan things. Is that kind of how it works?
beautifully put. I call astrology the queen or king of timing. Everything has a starting point. Our lovely interview today has a starting point, and that has its own chart,
Mm,
its own landscape. So I believe whilst we're in bodies, which we are beings of cycles. That body we have is part of nature, and
mm.
totally connected with their inner diaries, if you like, their cycles, their timing. I believe we have a soul which comes from elsewhere, but our bodies are from nature, and we have these inner timekeepers which were set in motion at that moment of our birth. Do you know your time of birth?
No, I don't actually. In fact, I spoke to my mum this morning and I did ask her, and she can't remember. She can't remember whether it's morning or evening.
And you play detective and keep asking the right questions. It's amazing what comes up.
Yes.
But there was a time of birth, the first breath, and cycles were set into motion. So the planets move, that moment of our birth, we're moving forward. And we actually do know our own timing, not so much of events, but the troughs and peaks, the timing of change. I liken this very much to a theatre stage. We've each got our own drama, our play of life. Hopefully not a Greek one, unless one likes a lot of drama and tragedy. Some people who do. And in this play, we have actors, we have an audience, we have acts and scenes. And at that moment of our birth, the name planets means wanderers.
Hmm.
Wander along the ecliptic, if you like, through those 12 zodiac signs. And although people go on about other signs of the zodiac, indeed there are, I think it's 88
Oh,
constellations.
wow.
I know, but these are the closest to the ecliptic the sun passes through in the year, and they link with the nature seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And there's 3 zodiac signs in each season. So this is very important to astrologers. This is what we work with in the main.
Hmm.
So we have these planets, these actors, these archetypes, these characters that live within us. We've all got a Mars, a Venus, a Jupiter when we're born. But how they're placed in our chart, their angle to one another, the signs of the zodiac they're in. For example, I'm a Scorpio sun, but my moon is in Capricorn, and I'll come to this a bit later, the rising sign based on the time of birth is Aquarius. So you start to see it's a bit more than just being
one.
sign is.
Yeah.
As with a play, these actors within us come on and off stage. And timing is very important, isn't it, for a play to go smoothly? And we've all got leading roles, and they're the planets in our charts which have a lot to say. We're good at it. Could be our leadership, our creativity, our practicality, our dreamer even. And we need to know the timing of when they want to have an airing. And those leading roles will get a lot of burnout over our lifetime, like leading actors get typecast. We start to get resentful. So why do people see us much that way? And we also got areas of us which are not weak, but they're wounded. They may be from our family line, experiences in childhood. Some people might say from previous lifetimes, reincarnation. And those stay out in the wings and they don't come on. And we do that at quite a young age, and we allow other people to play those roles for us. It's interesting, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
Planets move during our lifetimes. They activate different areas of our chart, whether daily, monthly, maybe for a few years. And when they trigger, if you like, these more wounded areas, they can be quite tough periods. We all know those.
Yes.
And when they trigger the comfortable areas, we think, wow, I'm wonderful, or at least I'm feeling good about myself. Timing, synchronicities seem to fall into place. So my job with a client is to actually get them to heal perhaps some more wounded areas, to look at that. Maybe to look at their family line as well. And just many ways of looking at a chart. Yes. So
and have you noticed big differences in clients? Have you noticed quite dramatic shifts in the way that they move forward and think about their lives in the future after working with you?
Yes. Sometimes, of course, I never hear back from them. But sometimes I do, and they come regularly for updates as a way of moving the chart forward in time. And we can look at the ongoing cycles and the ones coming up. Yes, they do. And I love doing charts, Rachel, for children. Not talking to the child or baby, but to the parent or grandparent. Amazing how many grandparents want their grandchildren's charts done. And
it's such a lovely idea.
Yeah. Well, it's not fortune telling at all, but it's an opportunity to have a look again at the family line, how the chart interaspects the parents, the siblings, and to see how, in a way, what sort of education would suit them best. How do they think? Are they more analytical, practical, visual? What kind of education? Are they slow or late or quick developers? And the talents which can be, utilized.
Do you think, you mentioned that the word fortune tellers, do you think that the problem in the past has been that people have associated fortune telling with astrology, and it's completely two different things, and it's almost created a bit of a stigma against astrologers?
Yeah, tell you something a bit of interest here. Yes, it was in the early Christianity, the first, if you like, four centuries, and then at a particular council, I believe it was Nicaea in Rome, there was a kind of committee, we're not committees alike, and they decided to take on Christianity as a state religion. It hadn't been at that point. And therefore, you can imagine what happened. They would go through the writings in the Bible as such, and they would leave in what they wanted and take bits out. And that's not knocking Christianity or the Bible. It's a wonderful piece of writing, but you can imagine how things could have been altered. So for a while, astrology was very up there, what they call the academies, right through history, going back to the Babylonian times, when they were very good at casting horoscopes. And I think for a long while it was used to chart best timing for coronations, for wars, for weddings, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I think more toward the Middle Ages, it was starting to be used in the marketplace, so to speak, fortune telling. Now, in later times, when psychology had its emergence, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, marvelous man, he had a great interest in and respect for astrology. In fact, he said that whatever is born at a particular moment in time takes on the quality of that moment. So the beginning moment, like a start in a race or a dive off a springboard, is very important to get that rhythm going. And he thought that astrology can be helpful to understand the crisis points in a patient's progress, if you like, how it linked again with the family line, because you can see the ancestral connections there. Very important. And we're not hidebound by our family, but it is useful to know what we can heal for them. Now, in 1931, a certain princess was born. Do you know who that was in England?
No, who would it have been?
Well, this is important, you see, because it was Princess Margaret.
Ah, right, of course.
There was an astrologer, quite a well-known one, who knew the editor, I think it was the Daily Express, who said, you know, it'd be fun to do something astrologically on her. She's a Leo, August. And then the astrologer said, well, how about, everybody knows their star sign, we do a column. So people born roughly between the 22nd of the month and the next month are a certain sign. And so that was born. So on the one hand, it gave astrology more airspace. On the other, it certainly gave it a bad name, because we are much, much more than our star signs.
Yes. Yeah. And am I right in thinking that, because I've read somewhere recently that the star signs have actually changed as well. So some people aren't necessarily the star signs that they are led to believe they are in the columns. Is there truth in that?
I'm laughing. When they do this, scientists and astronomers, they have a certain time when they do it. So people have forgotten they've done this before. Every few years, basically. And here it comes again, you know, that red herring. And they come up with a 13th sign. Well, as I said earlier, there's 88 constellations. The 12 that astrologers use run alongside the ecliptic, which we're linked with in the sun's path, and link with the nature seasons. So Aries starts spring, Taurus is the middle of spring, Gemini completes it, Cancer starts summer, and so on. And this is what we're living with and working with. So you will see this coming up every few years. And if people I'm sorry.
You've written a book about this, haven't you? Which I'm going to try and read, because I think it's a really interesting subject. And I think it will explain things, because it's quite a complicated subject, isn't it?
It is. No, after 40 years, well, nearly 40 years, I'm a writer. A publisher approached me and I thought, okay, but I don't want to write for astrologers. People, if you like, much more ingrained in the technicality of it than I am, because more and more I like to work simply with the person and fit it into their life and their level of awareness. And I didn't want to do a star sign book, plenty of those around. So I wanted to write about timing and these inner timekeepers, the natural diaries we have, how it links with music, nature, obviously the planetary cycles. And that's my book, The Time Catcher.
The Time Catcher, brilliant.
And good decisions require right timing. So I give a lot of tips about, you know, how we can contact these inner timekeepers more, particularly the phases of the moon.
It's interesting. What kind of age group are your clients? Because I know now I'm 50 now, and I am much more interested in my spiritual side and trying to find out more about that, and also about things like astrology. I am much more open-minded now than I ever have been. So what kind of age group are your clients?
I've done readings for people of 90. Know themselves well, but it's amazing how we can be habit bound. And if they're compos mentis, putting it bluntly, and physically pretty fit, it's very useful to look at new activities that they perhaps, because I think whatever we don't live out, as I said earlier, can be lived out by other people, our siblings, our peers, our children, and so on. And it's an opportunity at stages in our life to bring those parts on stage and at any age. So I get people of all ages. Does it go through cycles? The youngest I would do in person would be probably 17.
Right.
I work with a young woman, 14, a girl. She was very mature. Her parents had readings with me, and she came regularly to update. Went to Oxford. In fact, that's quite a funny story, because I got invited at the end of the year to do psychic readings. So I didn't go to Oxford to read psychic studies, but I did go there and
you got there.
Life, what you want, even though it may not be quite where you plant.
Yes.
That's the youngest, and I do a lot of young people, as you say, and then right through 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah, a lot of people 40s, 50s, I'd say.
Yeah, because I do think we become, like you said at the beginning, we become more curious again later in life because we have that time free, I guess, more time free to think.
And I think also it's become much more, not just star signs, but you do come across on the web, Google, Google things. People talk about Mercury retrograde a lot. Have you heard?
Yes, I have, but it goes over my head. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it actually means.
During those 3 weeks. Well, planets don't move backwards, retrograde. It's an optical illusion. And if you look at a book called An Ephemeris, where all the planets are, you'll see the degrees start to retrace themselves for 3 weeks with Mercury. And it's like sitting on a stationary train and you're minding your own business, maybe reading a book, and all of a sudden you think you're moving, but it's a train beside you that's moved and you're going backward. Okay, so it's to do with the relative movement of the planet in relation to the Earth. And it does work in practice that anything with the prefix RE, rethink, retrace, redo, revisit. Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, let me see when the next one is and tell your listeners, viewers. I can find it. See, this is something called an ephemeris.
Oh gosh, that looks complicated.
And until the computer nicely came along. Let's see when the next one is, or one of them anyway. Okay, the next Mercury retrograde is the 14th of October.
Right.
Till the 4th of November. It's roughly 3 weeks. So that would be a time period, and just leading into it and afterwards, of not pushing ahead too much, but revisiting ideas, re-editing. It's how people can come back into your life that time.
Right.
Travel during that time is a likelihood you will go back to that place. I've found that to be very much the case. Even obscure places you never thought, you don't think you'll go back to.
Yes. Well, that's interesting. So I'm going to write those dates down and remember not to book too much in those 3 weeks.
That was my exploring astrology. I didn't become a physical explorer, though I have been to the South Tibet Plateau 2 years ago. I know, it was extraordinary. The one area where the Tibetans haven't left, China, it's called the Spiti Valley. And it's a pure Tibetan culture of language, rituals, day-to-day routines. 18,000 feet. It was quite an experience.
Oh, but it was beautiful.
Yeah. And any of the proceeds of my book do go to help the development of an eye clinic there.
Oh, that's fantastic, Isam. That's really good.
And also I've sponsored a little girl there for her education, because if in the end things change, it is a big earthquake zone, or China does take it, they want their South Tibet, then these youngsters are educated and can go out to incredibly long and high passes.
Yeah.
In India and so on.
We learn so much through travel, don't we?
Oh, travel broadens the mind much more than books. And yeah.
Going back to the 12 star signs. So am I right in thinking that, well, I am a Taurus, but you're saying that there's a mixture there of 2 or 3 other stars signs that will be in there?
Absolutely.
And they all play a part at different times?
They do, with their movements. Now, it's like a fixed picture when you're born. So the moon is in a sign. The moon changes every 2.5 days. If you're born with a new moon, I don't know whether you were or not, the moon would be in Taurus like your sun. Okay. The moon governs the early years of life, your link with your mother, the matriarchal line, your home, your inner home, your rhythms, how you keep your home, how you like it. Mercury is how you think. As I mentioned, are you more analytical, visual, telepathic even? Venus is how you make money or draw it to you, your values, your love, nature, your creativity. And the sign that Venus is in on that day can show a lot about whether your creativity is more to mental level, making things with your hands, performance. Mars, it's your male side, whether we're men or women, and it's how we assert ourselves or not. Are we more strategic? Are we more impulsive and direct? Jupiter's our traveler, philosopher. That changes sign once a year, so we're starting to have longer cycles here. And Saturn, which has its return when we're 29, is our inner critic, if you like. It has its boundaries. It really us to have responsibility and mature. So I don't know whether 29 is at all important for you, but
yeah, well, I 29, 30, I just had my first child, but actually, when I really didn't like my 30th, I really hated being 30. It was a really kind of turbulent time for me because I just remember thinking, gosh, is this, although I had, I was happy with having a child and it was beautiful, is this all I have for the rest of my life? So it was a real turbulent time, 29, 30 for me.
it can be, because it's a sense of being more responsible, feeling more limited, but there is more free will. A lot of people do marry, have children, divorce at that time, change their work. It's like stripping back a lot of layers, taking off rose-coloured glasses. The next cycle is 58, which you haven't got to.
No, right, I'll let you know how that one goes.
Where we have our own authority, Saturn. Do we hand it over to others? Do we rebel against it? Saturn's a major player in the heavens at the moment in its own sign of Capricorn, because each planet has a sign it's comfortable with. And we've actually got a line-up of these outer slow-moving planets in Capricorn. In the southeast sky at night, you can see, if you look, it's beautiful. Jupiter is a very bright star. I did. If you're looking at it, it's about that much apart.
Right.
There's a lot more than that. And next to it is Saturn, because they're both in Capricorn. And in December, they'll be on the same degree, which won't mean they'll be sitting on each other. You'll see them one below the other.
Right.
And it'll be a time really of, I think, of a lot of decisions personally and worldwide about new structures, because we are living with a restructuring, a reset button now.
Yeah.
To mature a lot and grow up. So
it's really fascinating. How can people, if they wanted to kind of delve into this more, where do people start? What is the best way to start to learn and understand astrology a bit better than they do originally? Because it's such a big subject, isn't it?
It's mammoth. Do you know what, Rachel? I'm still learning. It's 41 years.
Yeah.
And you can't do it all. I mean, some people say, well, we'll do a reading for 4 hours. Something's wrong if you're doing that. You've got to work with the person. I do feel I can use that word guided, intuitively, that person needs at this time. There are a lot of people who, again, because you can do the calculations on the computer just by typing in the date, time, and place, learn a little bit and say, oh, I know a little bit about astrology. I'm going to start doing charts. And my heart sinks. Because you can do quite a lot of damage. Having a counselling background, some of that is very useful. Experience. So yeah, I'm happy, that worries me. But no, there are a lot of courses out there. You can learn from books. There's very good courses. There's the Astrological Association, Astrological Lodge of London. I'm just thinking about London area now. The London School of Astrology. I'm run by a man called Frank Clifford, who is brilliant. I don't teach. I never wanted to teach. I've been asked. For working with groups. With my drama background, I love doing astrodrama. People live out their planets and act them and move them. Really interesting. And of course, yeah.
And how can people find you, Isan?
Oh, me. Well, I've got a website, which is Isanne, YSANNE.com. So I've got Isanne.com. And that's probably the best way, because my email's on there.
And what about social media? Are you on any social media platforms?
All of it, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I've got a Facebook business page. So people can contact me that way, or my email, which is info@isanne.com.
Right.
And welcome to call me and have a chat.
It's a fascinating subject. And it's just so nice to talk to somebody that's had so much experience in it. You've got 40 years worth of experience in this subject, which is fantastic to share. So thank you so much. It's been really interesting talking to you.
Thank you, Rachel. It's been a wonderful interview, and I hope I've been able to put this over in ways which incite people's curiosity more than anything, and to grow.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
Keep in touch. Thank you. Thanks, Isan.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Well, that was so interesting, and I want to know more now. If you're like me and you do believe that there is, more to this. So it'd be great to look at Isan's website and find out more. And as she said, she's given some great places to look up and start. So I hope that has given you a little bit more to go into the week with more curiosity in life and keep an open mind to everything. And I will be back tomorrow when I'm talking to Shai Burnham, who is a photographer who specialises in social documentary. So I'm really looking forward to talking to her. Enjoy the rest of your day.